It's about getting the right people off the street at the right place at the right time. And this gang clearly was getting the right people off the street at the right time.
Authorities called the 55-year-old Herndon patriarch of the gangster disciples.
For 6 Black Souls gang leaders, 5 of them pictured here. The 6 men were found guilty of drug and racketeering conspiracy.
The indictments and convictions of notorious gangs such as the Satan Disciples, Milwaukee Kings, Gangster Disciples, and Black Souls underscore the serious threat street gangs pose to public safety across Illinois. These criminal organizations thrive on drug trafficking, violent crimes, and ruthless enforcement of their own rules, wreaking havoc on local communities. However, coordinated efforts between local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies have led to significant breakthroughs in dismantling these groups and holding their leaders accountable. While these victories represent important steps in curbing gang-related violence, the ongoing nature of these investigations signals the need for continued vigilance in protecting Illinois communities from organized crime.
This was an extensive trial that took 10 weeks and nearly 100 witnesses. It was also the county's first test of a tool designed to uproot street gangs. Tonight, Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox stood in the Layton Criminal Court building praising prosecutors' work after a jury handed down a guilty verdict for 6 Black Souls gang leaders, 5 of them pictured here. The 6 men were found guilty of drug and racketeering conspiracy.
For over a decade, the Black Souls terrorized a West Side neighborhood through violent crimes to protect their illegal drug trade, including committing an execution in broad daylight of a neighborhood man who was brave enough to report them.
6 leaders of the Black Soul Street Gang were convicted on racketeering and drug charges, facing potential life sentences after a complex trial, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. This verdict followed a chaotic moment during jury deliberations when 5 jurors were dismissed, forcing a restart of deliberations. Judge Michael B. McHale made the decision after a juror overheard racist comments. 2 jurors admitted they intended to send a message with their verdict, and another disclosed connections to other street gang members. 1 juror even fainted in the jury room, prompting the dismissals. Despite the disruptions, the newly formed jury quickly assessed the 9 weeks of testimony that included details of deletions, drug deals, and the gang's violent history. Prosecutors outlined the Black Souls criminal enterprise, which was led by Cornell Dawson. The gang controlled a 6-block area on the near northwest side, particularly thriving from drug sales near the intersection of West Monroe and Pulaski, where they dealt various drugs. 6 Black Soul leaders were the only ones to stand trial among 23 Black Souls members and associates indicted in 2013. The operation was named after the bullets used by Duavin Spears, a Black Souls enforcer, of the demise of a police informant, Claude Snelligan, in 2012. Spears allegedly shot Snelligan outside a cell phone store to protect Black Souls members who were being charged with beating Snelligan after he repeatedly reported their drug activities to police. Dawson had offered Snelligan $3,000 to drop the charges, unaware that Snelligan was cooperating with law enforcement. The trial exposed the gang's rigid hierarchy and brutal enforcement of its rules. One of the deletions described during the trial involved a lower-ranking member who was beaten to his demise for stealing drug money and buried in a shallow grave next to the house where the assault occurred. This crime became known as the Soul in the Hole case. Defense attorneys focused their efforts on discrediting the testimony of former gang members, many of whom had received lenient plea deals in exchange for their cooperation. A key prosecution witness, Alex Williams, was an FBI informant who befriended Dawson while in Cook County Jail. Despite his importance to the case, wearing a wire and helping investigators understand the gang's coded language, defense attorneys highlighted Williams' own criminal activities, including selling drugs while working for the FBI and receiving over $100,000 in benefits, including cash and relocation. The Lake County Sheriff's Office Special Investigations Group arrested members of the street gang known as Satan Disciple into custody. The investigation, which began more than a year ago, targeted the gang for its involvement in drug trafficking and violent acts across Lake County, according to Sheriff's Office spokesperson LT Christopher Covelli. Undercover operatives from SIG managed to seize 15 firearms, along with ammunition, during the operation. Detectives also successfully intercepted and prevented 2 planned drive-by shootings that had been ordered by gang members. One of these targeted a residence where multiple people were present, which could have led to numerous casualties, Covelli said. This long-term investigation marks a major step in combating gang-related violence and drug activity in the region.
First, Chicago's gang war takes a huge hit. The suspected patriarch of the infamous gangster disciples busted. What it means for the violence and drug trade on the streets.
In all, 35 suspected gang members were arrested today. Chicago police and federal agents seized illegal guns as well as heroin and other narcotics. Prosecutors called the 55-year-old leader one of the last, quote, patriarchs of the gangster disciples. The group once had thousands of members, used murder and torture to control $100 million in annual drug sales, and even wielded political influence in some parts of town. But 2 decades of federal and local law enforcement have changed all of that.
Prosecutors said the gang faction run by Johnny Herndon, also known as Goo, collected close to $2 million a year. They sold and other narcotics wholesale to allied street gang factions and offered retail sales at 2 open-air drug spots on Jackson and on Kilbourne. Investigators said business was booming because customers from the suburbs and downtown could come and go quickly via the Eisenhower Expressway. After a member of the gang was in June, Herndon's top assistant was overheard apparently plotting to take revenge. Police moved immediately to arrest him, finding him with a semi-automatic Glock 357 and another .357 revolver.
It's about getting the right people off the street at the right place at the right time. And this gang clearly was getting the right people off the street at the right time.
Authorities called the 55-year-old Herndon patriarch of the gangster disciples, but his alleged drug money and power paled in comparison to Larry Hoover.
Federal authorities have arrested Johnny Herndon, the alleged leader of a gangster disciples faction that operates on the west side of Chicago. Herndon, also known as Goo, is accused of overseeing a drug trafficking organization that has been selling narcotics in the 2-block area surrounding the 4500 block of West Jackson Boulevard since the early 1990s. Along with 34 other defendants, Herndon has been charged with drug possession and distribution at 2 open-air drug spots in the city. Authorities allege that Herndon used proceeds from drug sales to amass a real estate portfolio of more than 30 properties, mostly multi-unit rentals, valued at over $1.6 million. These properties were acquired over 2 decades, with many purchased outright using drug profits. Herndon's drug territory is considered highly profitable due to its proximity to the Eisenhower Expressway and the high volume of drug customers in the area. According to federal charges, his organization used violence, guns, and threats to control and protect this lucrative drug market. Christopher Harris, who allegedly managed the day-to-day operations of Herndon's drug enterprise, was also arrested. Harris was reportedly involved in 2 separate incidents this year where he was recorded requesting guns, with the second instance occurring on June 7th following the shooting demise of a gangster disciples member. Harris was charged with being a felon in possession of a firearm after law enforcement intercepted him before any retaliatory violence could take place. Herndon's organization allegedly controlled 2 primary drug spots, one in the 300 block of South Kilbourne Avenue and another in the 4400 block of West Congress Avenue. These drug spots were responsible, generating an estimated $5,400 in daily revenue. Over the course of a typical month, the organization is alleged to have generating around $162,000. Since 1993, Herndon, 55, has reportedly used drug proceeds to purchase 31 properties in Chicago and nearby areas, including Gary, Indiana. The properties were often purchased outright, without mortgages, and many were later rehabilitated. Herndon's rental properties, which include some Section 8 subsidized units, are said to generate over $20,000 a month in rental income. 4 men allegedly committed fatal shootings on Chicago's northwest side as part of their efforts to maintain and elevate their ranks within a violent street gang, according to a newly unsealed federal indictment. The federal indictment, returned last month by a grand jury in Chicago, was unsealed on May 9, 2019. According to the indictment, the defendants are members of the Milwaukee Kings street gang. All 4 are currently in law enforcement custody. The indictment describes the Milwaukee Kings as a criminal organization involved in drug trafficking and violent acts, including an assault. Members of the gang allegedly promoted their criminal activities on social media, threatened rival gangs, and took measures to avoid detection by law enforcement. Navarro is accused of the demise of Xavier Soto on April 27, 2017 in Chicago's Crackdowns neighborhood to advance his status within the gang. He also allegedly attempted the demise of 2 other individuals that same day. Martinez and Lozoya are charged with the December 16, 2016 demise of Crispin Colas, 28, in Chicago's Dunning neighborhood. According to the indictment, this deletion was also carried out to maintain or increase their positions within the gang. Rojas is accused of fatally shooting 19-year-old on September 2, 2015 in the Belmont-Cragen neighborhood, similarly to elevate his standing in the gang. The indictments and convictions of notorious gangs such as the Satan Disciples, Milwaukee Kings, Holland Latin Kings, Gangster Disciples, and Black Souls underscore the serious threat street gangs pose to public safety across Illinois. These criminal organizations thrive on drug trafficking, violent crimes, and ruthless enforcement of their own rules, wreaking havoc on local communities. However, coordinated efforts between local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies have led to significant breakthroughs in dismantling these groups and holding their leaders accountable. While these victories represent important steps in curbing gang-related violence, the ongoing nature of these investigations signals the need for continued vigilance in protecting Illinois communities from organized crime.